recently, Nintendo released like 3 amiibos. One of them was like a GameStop exclusive, one of them was an Amazon.com exclusive, and one of them was a Best Buy exclusive. And the Best Buy one was from Majora's Mask, which, as you guys know, is my favorite Zelda. And of course, they sold out like within an hour, which is fucking booty. But that's Nintendo. But I was in Best Buy with AJ. AJ is my friend, for those listeners who have no idea what I'm talking about. And wouldn't you know, on the shelf, there was one Majora's Mask Link. And I copped him, and I got the one I was looking for. Tremendous victory. Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yo. Anyway, welcome to the very first episode. Episode? Do we call podcast episodes? Yeah, right?
Sure. I think we're done.
Alright, see you later.
Bye. That was good.
Bye, guys.
Welcome to the first edition. We'll say edition. Welcome to the first edition of the Nailed It Network podcast. This podcast is going to be basically the 3 of us, and we'll have guests on every now and then, and it will be divided up among giving little updates about what's going on with Nailed It and our various video projects, as well as taking some time to just talk about pop culture, talk about movies and TV and, you know, maybe even video games and stuff like that. And these eventually will be live on the channel, so feel free to stick around and check them out. Tonight I'm joined by the partners in crime, the Nailed It fam, Keith and Ryan.
Hi.
Who's that?
This is Ryan, by the way.
Oh.
That crunching is Keith, I assume.
Yeah, so Keith only...
I don't know who you're talking about.
So Keith communicates by eating chips. We had another podcast on the gaming channel that we worked together on, and that was a staple of that podcast as well, the Integral Dudes. So to kind of start things off, to kind of get things going a little bit, I think it's cool that we talk a little bit about Nailed It, where we are, what are the plans for the rest of the summer, and moving forward. So, yeah. So we just released episode 5. We did a live stream for that. That was our first time doing that. We had a cool turnout for it. It was an interesting experience, and I think a learning experience for all of us, and we plan on doing that a bit more in the future.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm surprised that many people came out.
Yeah, especially considering we didn't really promote it very much. Like, we kind of just went on Facebook and said, hey, we're live, and, you know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Your theory was that the immediacy of it and it being live will force people to check it out, whereas any quote-unquote millennial prioritizing anything means it's not going to happen. So, there you go.
Yeah, totally.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, I think the fact that we just did it was what made it kind of cool, maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe if we promoted more, that'd be cool, but I thought it was fucking awesome.
And that's why, Your Honor, we had to just do it.
Yeah, and I mean, you know,
fail posted.
from a creator standpoint, it's pretty cool to see something that we've been working on for years now, kind of just all in a row like that. You know, it's an interesting experience to see stuff that we worked on, you know, in 2015. Paired right next to something that was in 2017. It's kind of a cool moment for all of us, especially right now. We're working on the last episode of Cure, season 1. You know, we do plan on doing more in the future, but as of right now, this is going to be the finale that we've been working on. So there's been a lot of full circle moments for us, and it's been really interesting. So apart from Cure, which has kind of been dominating things this summer, we have a couple other projects that are coming up. So we have the Lilac Plan, which I think Ryan would be the guy to talk about that, and we have Funlets, and I think Keith would be the guy to talk about that. So why don't we jump into those?
Yeah, I mean, Lilac is like kind of like a very dark alternate world sci-fi type show, very much like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror. Like, each season or phase is like 3 kind of short films, and phase 1's been out for a little bit, and phase 2 will be out soon, hopefully. But they're a lot of fun to make, and a lot of stuff we shot, like you were saying, Lou, stuff we shot back in 2015. You know, with Cure, we shot a lot of those, actually all of them in 2015, and just seeing like the progress we've made, and like all the scripts we've gone through since then and stuff. it's pretty cool. So that'll hopefully be out in the fall. At least the first episode for Phase 2 will be.
Yeah. What do you think the primary difference between 2 and 1 is going to be?
I think the size. I think 1. We did some shorter episodes, like Pure is 6 minutes, and the first one Dial's only 3. Barry's, a little bigger at like 12 and change, or just shy of 13 minutes, so the size will definitely be bigger. And I think if anything, Phase 2 might be a touch darker, even though 1 is pretty fucking dark. But I think it'll be the scope of some of them, and definitely maybe like the feel will be a little darker. And the themes will be more, I think, kind of centralized. Like, we had a couple different themes going on in Phase 1, where Phase 2 will be more like dream versus reality type stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in pursuing the whole one, a theme per phase, and all the episodes linking together for that one theme. That's something we're looking to do.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah,
I think we're all excited about it. It should be pretty cool.
I'm not. It sucks. Yeah, I'm kidding.
I really
God damn
hate
it.
everything about you. Can you do a Batman voice, Ryan?
Oh God, which one? Like the
best one. What are you talking about?
Well, I know the best one is Kevin Conroy, but I don't know if I can do him.
No. We're talking
I can
about
do
the Hail Bay, the Hay Bale, the Hail Bay, Christian Bale.
Oh, yeah, I try to think of I'm not wearing hockey pads or whatever he says in those movies. Yeah, I love those movies, but God, that voice is bad.
Hey, what else?
Yeah.
What are some other really old things we can talk about? You guys remember Pez? What were those?
Man, dude, I was like, I remember Spider-Man Pez big time. There was like Spider-Man Pez was big back in the day.
It's kind of
Well,
funny.
there were others.
A couple years ago, Rebecca and I were going to Mystic, Connecticut, and on the way there, we passed like a Pez factory, and we ended up like going in. They had a tour, and the guy had like the largest private Pez collection.
Whoa, that's disgusting. I love it.
I have some pictures. We'll flash them up on screen right now so that people can see. Pez, sure.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a
let's talk about the
great thing.
opposite of old things, and let's talk about things that are so new that we don't even have anything for them up on the channel. Keith, let's talk about Funlets a little bit.
Funlets. Yes, that is going to be the branded sketch comedy for our channel. We've got a few shorts that are comedic, but really a lot of our content is pretty I'd say on the grim side, so this will be nice to get a smattering of comedy as well to balance all that out. We're hoping to do just your basic sketch comedy like you'd see on TV, only on the internet this time. We'll have thinking like 4 to 5 minute videos, each separated by your traditional, I guess, short, like 30-second comedy bits to minute to 2 minute long sketches, and we're gonna try to get a whole eclectic mix of different kinds of humor. You're gonna have your slapstick, your more maybe a political humor here, something a little more dry. We're gonna try to get a whole bunch of them, so we're very excited to start shooting those. We have a bunch of scripts. We're in casting phase, and we're looking to shoot really soon, so look out for those.
And I think what's interesting about the project is that, like, Keith, Ryan, and I, and hopefully in the future, like Glenn too, we'll all be writing, sketches for this show. So while they are all thematically blended together in the episodes, it's kind of interesting to have like multiple voices working on the same project in a format like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, in reality, like we always, our process, we always look at the scripts together and we always finalize them together. But there's never really been, at least to my, memory, where like we really did a project where like from the ground up, it's just like everybody's kind of writing, and we're kind of just shooting them and blending them together. Like that's kind of a new experience for us.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool.
I mean, that's the thing. You think with comedy, oh, big deal. That's easy. It's not. It's definitely not. At least here's the thing: if it is easy, then you're probably not very funny. So And then we'll release every Funlit episode and they won't be funny at all. So what is that? What would that tell you? Wouldn't that be funny? That would be the funniest part of it all when we're all hanging from the rafters.
Then we're not funny and stupid.
Good times.
Yeah. So that's kind of where Nailed It is right now. We do have some other channels on the side. Keith and I both have channels where we do video game content. You can look them up on the sidebar on the Nailed It Network channel.
Well, yeah, correction. Lou has a channel where he does video game stuff on the side. I have one video, and I'm promising to make others.
It's a really great video though. Like it's
Oh
really great.
I actually am shuddering to open it and see how long ago it was.
Yeah,
It wasn't long ago. I was like,
let's-
yeah, I'm gonna have another one next week.
let's find out what was the upload
Scared,
date.
Daddy. I don't
Alright,
wanna
here,
know.
I'm going.
The truth
Okay.
hurts.
Okay, the truth probably would hurt, and
It won't set me free either.
do you want the answer?
Can we guess?
Yeah, go for
Get a
it.
drum roll. I'm gonna guess
Um,
7 months.
Okay, Ryan, what's your guess?
I'll do the Price is Right thing. I'll do 6.5 months.
Okay,
What a bitch.
well, you're both wrong. It's 11 months.
Oh God, we'll keep closer.
So,
Keith is the only channel on YouTube that will upload once a year.
but see, that's the thing. I'm much more quality over quantity.
It is.
I make
a
that one
quality
video very good.
It is absolutely a quality video.
When he uploads, it's an event.
Let them be. Surprise! It's tomorrow.
So, in addition, we have Sweet Lou Photography, which just launched, where I'm doing photo and video tutorials. That's been a lot of fun. But in terms of our filmmaking too, Ryan has a couple of projects on the side. He has The Falls, which is a long-running series on YouTube. If you want to briefly go into that, you know.
Yeah, it's a dark comedy, very dark mockumentary series that's been on YouTube for a couple of years. Volume 3 just came out. If you just go to YouTube and type in The Falls Ryan Skinner, or if you just go to the Falls series on Facebook, all the info will pop up for the homepage, and my Twitter is @VRSkinner, and everything is on there. Any other projects I might be doing is also just on there too.
And last but not least, I have a channel called The Bronx Scene, which is home for local Bronx music and the eventual home for the Bronx Underground documentary that I've been working on that's coming soon, TM. I wanted it to be done by the end of this summer, and I am cripplingly far from that goal. So, but it is there.
When it's done.
Yeah, for real. But it will be cool when it's done. So I'd say
You gotta be like the you gotta be like the id software when it's done, not the 3D realms when it's done.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
everyone knows what that means.
Good
Good job.
Let's not explain it all.
I won't. I refuse to. I absolutely refuse to.
Cool. Yeah, Google it. So
Nerds.
I think that's a fine amount of talking about ourselves. So I think at this point we're gonna start to switch gears a little bit. So this summer has been really cool for movies, in my opinion. We've had a bunch of really good releases, and today we're gonna be talking about 3 of those releases. We're gonna be talking about Baby Driver, we're gonna be talking about Dunkirk, and Spider-Man: Homecoming. So, gentlemen, you have any preference of which order we go in? I went alphabetically.
Maybe because Baby Driver came out first of those 3.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think Baby Driver came out, and then Spider-Man, and then Dunkirk. I think.
Well, I thought Baby Driver was dope. I loved the first hour of it. I thought the last hour was still really, really fucking good. I just thought the first hour just felt a little bit more focused, and the second hour was just crazy all over the place stuff, which was still fun as hell. But overall, it was a great movie. Like, I really, really dug it. Dug the soundtrack too and everything.
Yeah, Baby Driver is really. I think that so far that's my movie of the year. Um, I love.
Whoa.
Well, what else came out this year?
I don't know. Stop yelling at me.
Sorry. But well, I mean, like I was really hyped for Alien Covenant, and I don't want to derail this whole conversation, but like that movie sucked balls. And
Oh, I liked that
Get-
movie. I didn't like love
get
it, but I
out.
liked it.
Get out of Discord
I mean,
immediately.
Baby Driver was definitely way better, but I enjoyed that movie.
Well, they certainly had a nigh impossible task ahead of them.
Keith,
to
you
making
didn't
that
see it,
one.
right?
I've seen enough of it.
Okay. Does that mean like what, the trailers or the reviews or?
Pretty much, yeah, I've seen lots and lots of reviews. I didn't really have an interest in seeing it.
Yeah.
I was, there was a part of me that wanted it to be awesome. Like, hey, we're going to combine Alien and Aliens.
Yeah.
That's not,
Yeah.
And they failed to do either of those well.
It sounds like they wanted to really tie off Prometheus and still have a heady sci-fi movie while also having a balls to the wall action. And that's, well, I guess you would say someone as smart as Ridley Scott and everyone else would be able to pull that off. Because I was about to say it's going to take smarter people than me to pull that off, but now I don't know. But anyway, I can't really speak on it. I haven't seen it.
You should see that, and we should debate that, because I would debate the fuck out of you on that, Ryan.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I mean, it's definitely not a perfect movie. Like, it
No.
has...
You don't have to
Yeah,
apologize
yeah.
for being
It-
wrong.
it's-
It's fine.
It's your incorrect opinion.
It has... It has... it has like some really weird plot moments
Yeah.
and like plot devices they do, but I don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed it. Maybe just because like movie expectations
Yeah.
now are so low for me. Like, I love what's on the TV and the web.
Standards are
so
not
much
that
more.
high.
We should actually pause this conversation for one quick moment and just issue a general spoiler warning.
Yeah, good call.
Because I felt very compelled to say something just now, and I realized that like that would probably spoil a lot of Alien Covenant. But yeah, so
Yeah.
spoiler alert. Leave. Well, don't do that. Just listen to the rest of it on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Things come out of people's chests.
dude, like that scene where Michael Fassbender kisses Michael Fassbender. Like, how
Yeah,
could
it's
you
hot.
not?
Hasn't seen
How
that
could
yet.
you find that anything but funny? Like, it was just.
Oh no, there was odd as fuck
Yeah.
moments in that movie, but
I'll do
overall,
the
it was like this is.
fingering.
Maybe
So
I just
good.
found it to be a fun summer movie. It's definitely more Aliens than Alien.
Yeah, it's
Um,
definitely more suck than good.
I mean, it reminded me a lot of like the good stuff I loved about Prometheus, but also at the same time it repeats some of the same mistakes. Just weird plot, like the devices they jam in there, and
Yeah.
but I would still say check it out. But in conclusion, Baby Driver is really good.
Yes.
That's all we really have to say about Baby Driver is how.
So here's the thing, right? Like, because I know saying movie of the year is like that's a big statement. And I do pride myself on seeing a lot of movies every year. And my reasoning for it, being my so far movie of the year. I mean, it's only August right now. It's so unique. Like it takes a lot of the elements of action thrillers. It takes a lot of those like car chase movies. It takes inspiration from so many places, and it kind of throws them all into like this big mixing pot and sprinkles in like some nostalgia with some really good music and Edgar Wright sensibility and the editing and the pacing. Like it's such a great recipe for an awesome movie, and I would never deny, there are definitely some shortcomings in the movie. There are some plot elements that are a little iffy, but I think the movie on the whole is so enjoyable that like I didn't even care. You know what I mean? It kind of, these movies are totally unrelated, but I felt the same way seeing Interstellar. Like that movie I was obsessed with from the second I saw it. I had to get the Blu-ray, like I felt the same way. I felt like, oh my god, I love this movie so much. And those two are probably my favorites from the last 5 years. So, Keith, what did you think of Baby Driver?
Well, I think I absolutely did enjoy it. I kind of thought about it after seeing it, trying to compare it to his other movies, and it definitely it's a little different than a lot of his other ones. It's still got his flair in it, but you could stack that up against something like Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz and Scott Pilgrim, things like that, and you probably could convince someone it was by someone else.
So there's
It does feel a
two
little different.
things to note about that. Pulling Scott Pilgrim out of the mix for the moment. Edgar did say in a couple of interviews that he went out of his way to make this movie more American. Like, this is like his first real like Hollywood movie, I guess you could say.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was going to say so much of the movie almost felt retro. I don't know how else to describe it.
It did, yeah.
It felt like it was out of another time. Yeah, it almost looked like a time capsule.
Yeah.
Like, I know it was present day, but once you're in the diner, it almost feels like an idyllic 50s kind of like
absolutely
crime thriller.
That's what I really love about the
interesting.
movie, to be able to go from that and then like into that warehouse scene.
And that's the thing. That was probably the most dangerous part of it, I think, was that roping in that love interest, because you could fairly criticize the film, in my opinion, for the middle part lagging a bit, just to develop exclusively that love interest.
But I think it
so-
benefited the movie so well in the end to really have that driving force behind, the whole outro.
Well, look, I mean, I did
sequence
too.
and-
I didn't find it. I found it slower, but that's because the first and third act have such breakneck speeds.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could say it's a little slower, but I didn't feel it. Like, I was really interested to see it develop, because
I was invested beyond
it's just
belief.
so especially nowadays, you used to any kind of on-screen relationship is so cynical, and this is the exact opposite of that, for better or worse. But then by the end, it kind of it takes an interesting twist. I don't want to say exactly what happens, but like I think it's kind of interesting if you think of it from the perspective of some of those really old crime thriller or race car rebel style movies. I think it wraps up pretty nicely.
So the other thing to point out about this movie, like if you want to compare it to the Cornetto trilogy, which those movies are fucking masterpieces. But the big difference in this one here is that Simon Pegg didn't co-write the script. And I don't want to act like that was like a whole Lou realization. To be fair, Red Letter Media, they were the ones that pointed that out. But yeah, they suggested the idea that the script was kind of missing that heart, and they suggested that maybe Simon Pegg was that heart and that element that's missing. I mean, personally, I don't think that's true. I thought the movie had a lot of heart, and I thought it was really engaging. And it's just,
I didn't really notice that. I mean, I'm not gonna at all. Yeah, honestly, I didn't think about Simon Pegg not being in it.
right. Well, but like I said,
But I
co-writing it
wouldn't-
and helping
Co-writing
the
it,
direction.
yeah.
But
I didn't really, not to make light of his contributions. I just didn't even think about that. It just felt like a totally different story for me. And he's done stuff more or less on his own, which have had, I don't think it's lacking emotion in any sense. I think if anything, you could say the opposite. Like, you could say the second act is mostly just there to develop the emotional side. Maybe it isn't delicately sprinkled throughout, because most of the movie is spent around those kind of hard characters.
Yeah, I thought after, like, I believe it was like the second heist, I thought the film, I mean, I thought the film lost a little bit of speed, and like you guys were saying, like, it did kind of sag in the middle when they tried to just stop and take time to develop like the romantic stuff. I wouldn't say like if there's anything noticeable about Simon Pegg not writing it, it wouldn't be the hard side. It'd be more, I feel like any of those like previous movies he's done with Pegg, it feels like the setup and payoff in it is like so perfect, and like everything is so like neatly like done, and like they're just very tight scripts. And it felt like the second hour of that started to like get a little over the place, and it wasn't as tight, I think, as past stuff that they've done. But in terms of the heart thing, I think it had plenty of that. Like, I think he was a very easy character to root for, and you knew who everybody was, and
Yeah, I actually really liked the lead actor.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on
Ansel
his name.
Elgort. Ansel. something. Ansel Elgort,
I
I'm
don't
pretty sure. Pretty sure.
Well, there's there's a name for you. Yeah, that's I really like
Ansel
him a lot.
Elgort. Elgort.
I thought he was just the right amount of I'm a wimpy kid in over his head,
Yeah.
yet maintaining that front. I thought that was a really nice balance, and I
Yeah.
really
Big
didn't,
time.
And he
I guess
really
in a sort of
hasn't
Clint
been in
Eastwood
too many
way.
things. Like I'm looking
I
him
never
up on
thought-
IMDb right now. He's been in a couple of those young adult books like Insurgent, Allegiant.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
okay. I thought I saw him from
Divergent.
something.
Oh, that's
The-
rough.
The Fault in Our Stars, Paper
I don't remember.
Towns.
I didn't see
I could be wrong. It could be
those.
another actor,
I
but
saw
I think he's
Divergent.
gonna play a young JFK in a
Don't
movie.
remember.
He's gonna be in the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
What?
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shit.
Well, at any rate, yeah, I thought he was really great for the movie. I mean, since
I
we're
really
in-
liked all the performances.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Especially,
I don't think there was
uh,
anyone that was. I wouldn't say there was anyone that was bad.
Yeah, the
You
the
know?
woman who played Deborah, Lily James, I thought she was like the glue between those. Because it's kind of interesting to think like the movie can kind of be split into like almost two worlds, right? That like crime world and then that like 50s-esque diner romance world.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And she's really the glue that holds those two together. And I thought she did such a good job. You know, just even her look alone, I thought she was just perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
they-
liked
they-
her
she-
look a
she did
lot.
great.
She was good looking. I liked that. Anyway,
Yeah.
but more on. Well, that's going back to what I was saying before when I really like the two worlds and how by the end of it they're forced to. They're forced violently together, and I thought that was really interesting, the way it all
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
the pieces.
I
all the
think
cookies crumbled.
Edgar really has something to be proud of. I think it's a really great movie, and
Because that's the thing. I was always hearing he had that basically this is one of these things he had in his pocket for like forever, and he just couldn't
Yeah.
wait to get it out. So that might even explain why he didn't really run it by another writer, or
yeah,
it's probably just a very personal project.
there's a podcast where he's speaking with Christopher Nolan, and he explains how that song in the first scene, Bell Bottoms, he heard that, and that kind of just was like, hey, I want this. I want to do a car chase driven by this song, and that kind of
So
wrote the whole
funny.
movie.
Because like I do, man, not to not to put myself in the great man's shoes, but that is so often how I get visuals for movies too.
Yeah,
like you hear
absolutely.
a song and everything just starts to click, and like I highly doubt he's alone on that one. I'm sure there's so many people that can relate, and it's almost cathartic to see it.
Yeah.
I think the only song I didn't really, I don't know, maybe I thought it was a little misplaced, was because it's also just one of my favorites. I really love that Focus song, Hocus Pocus.
Oh, it's so cool.
Saving that one for the foot chase. I think that should have been a fucking car chase, man. That song is fucking insane.
It's so cool, man.
It's absolutely insane. That is just, I don't even know how long it is. I think it's 5-7 minutes of just pure psychedelic insanity. Yeah, like a
I
song
think
that
it
I
worked
thought-
well because of all the sections. Like, when he hits the mall, it's like that. Like the break from the heavy guitar. Like it's like a good like push pull almost. In terms of like his running and hiding, like all the different sections of the song.
You see, that's the thing. It's like I can't even say that's wrong because yes, it does work. The only thing is, as I just said, I'll hear a song and I'll think of a scene, and that is like I can't tell you how many times I've seen an action scene go by to that song. It's like this is weird. Like, get out of my head.
Do you guys
Yeah.
think that if he had directed Ant-Man, that this would have come out anytime soon? I mean, it probably would have eventually, come out, but I was
thought
wonder
it
if he
did.
had direct.
Well, he wrote the screenplay for Ant-Man, and he was supposed to direct it, and basically
Oh, he didn't
there
actually
was-
direct it?
There was some disagreement, and he got kicked off the project, or he left the project, or something like that.
Yeah. Because you just wonder, like, if he did direct that and it, like, was a hit, which it would have been regardless. I mean, it still was a hit without him directing it, but, like, if he would have been, okay, we're going to sign you on to do 2, and then, like, maybe he does this in between, or maybe he doesn't and it gets delayed. And
Well, I gotta
just
say,
remember
he
when-
must be that just as good a fucking screenwriter as he is directing, because you know, it really felt beat for beat, like even from cinematography standpoint, a lot of the sight gags too in Ant-Man. I mean, it really felt like a movie that he directed.
Yeah, I just wonder if, like, I don't know, like, because I remember when he was going to direct it, and then he, like, him and Marvel parted ways, and I remember a lot of people were like, oh, man, that sucks, like, it's going to suck now, but you think, hey, if because that happened, we probably got Baby Driver much earlier than we would have, or if ever, because you never know, you know, like, something happens, and then, you know, this actor's not available, or whatever the fuck.
You never know.
But, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed that one.
Another little fun fact about the movie that I heard from that podcast. Do you remember that one scene where he rewinds the iPod and the song like starts over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It turns out the reason they did that was because the cinematographer realized, like, hey, these stunts are going to take longer than the duration of the song. So they just wrote in, like, okay, he rewinds the song here so that it would be the right length of time for the scene. I thought that was a pretty... And it's also like a character building moment.
Yeah, I gotta
for
say, man,
Baby.
yeah, I wouldn't want to be. Ugh, as much as I love editing, I don't know. I wouldn't want that job. That must have been a nightmare to sync all that up and direct.
Well,
it
it's
so
it's
far.
interesting.
I mean, it's really amazing.
It's interesting because they brought in a lot of dance choreographers to really line certain things up, and like that you know that's it's
It
like
shows.
a 3-minute Steadicam shot at the beginning when he's going to get coffee.
Yep.
Like, apparently when they were shooting that, they had these speakers that were like all over the streets actually playing the song, so that
That's
he could
awesome.
be. And then when he goes in to the coffee shop, they had like earpieces, so they muted all the speakers, and it was just kicking through their earpieces so that they can get the clean audio, you know, because they have a conversation in there.
Yeah.
And then boom, he goes outside, and all the active speakers are going again outside. It's just such an interesting. I mean,
I know. It's like, why couldn't they just give him real working headphones? I
right.
guess.
But that's the thing, because I mean, other people have to react to it too, so it can't
Yeah,
just be
it's that
him hearing
attention
it.
to detail.
But yeah, like
really-
that's the thing. Like who, like what other director is gonna do shit like that? You know, like Edgar Wright's like such an old school director that just gives a fuck. You know, and I can't.
I was about to say, that feels very old school and, like,
Yeah, because
whatever
I
you
mean
wanna
that's
say,
like you know,
tactile.
not to go back to Alien again, but like you know, there's so many things that you can read up on about the kind of music that they would play in those scenes, and then they would just ADR the entire thing. Like, you know, that was like that care and that attention to detail that really pulls out performances that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. You know, I don't have enough positive things to say about Edgar Wright, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, well, that shot too. That, you know,
Yeah, it's so cool.
they were opening that up. They were showing off. I mean, right after that cool chase,
Yeah.
and then they have this long ass
that intro,
continuous take.
like set to bell bottoms, honestly, is probably one of my favorite movie opens like ever.
it was really good.
that first 5 minutes is just like you I don't know, like when I saw it with Keith and Steph from Cure, and I felt like I was just smiling like a fucking idiot the entire time, you know, like the whole.
Like I say, it's very cathartic. You know, it's
Yeah.
like it really feels like a movie. Like if it's like it really feels like a director's movie.
oh what?
It feels like a director's movie. Like,
Yeah.
If it's very cathartic, that's all I can. Best
Yeah.
way I can put it.
Yeah. So hands down, I would recommend you see Baby Driver. It's probably still in some theaters. Like, go now.
Maybe it could be. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool
Yeah.
and good.
Yeah. It was cool and good.
All right.
All right. That's enough, Ryan.
So, on the flip side, let's talk about Dunkirk.
That's an interesting one.
So
I don't think anyone expected what going into that theater. I don't think anyone expected
Yeah.
the same things.
yeah, so while I'm extremely passionate about my love for Baby Driver, not as passionate for Dunkirk, which is unfortunate because I really love Christopher Nolan. I think he's a fabulous director. I think he's, I think it'd be hard to argue that he's one of the greats right now, of our time. And from that opinion, and a lot of people share it. Go into a Christopher Nolan movie expecting, a certain type of movie, a certain level of quality. And I don't want to say that like Dunkirk was a piece of shit because it certainly wasn't. But it did not meet that level of expectation I had just going into it, I think it's fair to say that Nolan's a very character director. I think his other movies are really strong because of the performances he pulls out of his characters. He writes them that way, and for me, and again, we're in spoiler mode. I feel like just the overall lack of character development, the overall lack of someone that you can really identify with is the reason that movie fell so short for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing too, like you were saying with going into a Nolan movie, I think expectations now, like because of his resume, are almost like unfair sometimes. Where it's like you look at like the Dark Knight trilogy or Inception or Interstellar, it's like his movies are like an event, like into an like onto themselves, are just like a big event. Yeah, I think it's like technically amazing. Like it's a technically amazing thing that he pulled off.
I was blown
and
away by some of those set pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, like it was an old school. I don't know what you would call it. Cecil B. DeMille, like Irwin Allen, like just huge, awesome, all real stuff. Like it felt like the entire movie, or like half the movie was like a dare. It was like I bet you can't like actually show a plane strafing a boat or something like for real with like no CGI or whatever. And like he's like, well, I bet I can, and he went and did it. So like that I loved. I loved the fact that it was an hour and 47 minutes. Like when I saw that runtime when I bought my
I was
ticket,
shocked to see that. Yeah.
I'm like, is that a mistake? Like it's got to be 2:47. Like for a while, like I was sitting there thinking this has got to be almost 3 hours. Like that has to be a mistake. But no, I was like, I was stunned by that. So like those are the positives. Like it's incredibly like well made, and if Nolan gets some Oscar love finally, like I don't care how he gets it, like go for it. I'd rather it be for something like Interstellar or Inception or whatever. But we're talking about Edgar Wright and like the lack of heart. Like some people were inferring because of no Simon Pegg writing or whatever. I thought there was like, I don't know, for a movie that like is all about saving people and all about humanity, I thought there was kind of a lack of humanity in it and like an iciness to it. And my big thing is like the name test, and not that I can remember names of every character in every movie I saw, but people who like it, I would ask them, tell me the name of any of these characters. Like what's that dude's name?
Harry
And
Styles.
in almost every case they can't tell me the character's name, and that to me is a big good sign of like it was not necessarily that if it being a bad movie, it's a well-made film that just seemed to lack a lot of, like you were saying, they lack a lot of whatever you want to call it, character development, story, why we're rooting for these guys. Besides, oh look, they're trying to rescue people from Nazis. Like, there was a lack of, there was an iciness to the movie that I thought made it feel like a scripted documentary almost.
And you really don't even like see Nazis or anything like that. Like the bad guys are almost just this unseen force that's going on, and like it's kind of ironic. It almost feels like nature is like just as big of an enemy in the movie.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. It seems like the Tide is just as big, if not bigger, a threat than the Nazis. And on some level, I think that's kind of rad. Like, I think it's just, even then, like, the natural forces of like, whatever, the planet are going against them. And for a while, I was on the fence about, like, maybe it's cool to not see, the enemy too much, that we don't see the Nazis that much. We just hear gunfire in the beginning, and, there was a cool sequence in the beginning where, the guy's running to the beachhead. and that seemed kind of cool. But man, like just it's the name test. It's like tell me those guys' names, and I think that's a good sign that like some of these characters like I had no clue. Like you knew what was going on, but it was like why am I rooting for them? Besides the fact that they're trying to get saved from Nazis, and that's not enough, sadly, in a movie. Like, it's not enough to do that in 2 hours. It's just like, well, they're guys running from Nazis. Like, let's root for them. And I think that was, I don't know what it was, but it was well made. Just lacked a certain type of soul, I guess.
I think the biggest missed potential is like the sailors. Because if you want to look at the soldiers as just this big, blob of like, hey, one character doesn't matter because there's 400,000 of them. Like I could see you making that work if those sailors were really well developed, because then it's like, hey, these guys are helping this big blob, and it's kind of almost about them in a certain way. But like, and again, spoilers. When that kid falls and like fucking dies in the boat, like I didn't feel anything. It was. I
don't think the characters felt anything either.
Yeah, he just fucking. I don't know. It was like he's dead. Oh, okay. Well, he said four lines of dialogue. So, and you set up the idea that he wanted to be a hero. So, do you think he's gonna be a hero at the end? Maybe.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, there was some that we're talking about the other day, and I think that boat scene when that kid dies is a microcosm of that movie, and that it's like that should have meant something when that kid died, and it felt like it was just another scene early in the third act or whenever it happened. It was just something to get us to the next big set piece, something to get us to the next big strafing or boat sinking or
Let's ask the really important question. Why does Christopher Nolan always want to cover Tom Hardy's face?
I don't know why, because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, he is a handsome man. Rumor has it he's going to be the next Wolverine, so.
Oh,
I think he's playing Venom, isn't he?
Well, that's what fucking what's-his-face said. Hugh Jackman.
I heard he's playing Venom.
What's his face doesn't know shit.
No, I think Hugh Jackman specifically said he wanted to be replaced by this guy.
That's awesome as fuck. I hope that's true. Fuck.
Yeah, I remember reading it somewhere.
Well.
Yeah.
So let me try to jump in here. I probably had the least amount of expectations going into this. I went to see it because I took my brother to see it because he wanted to see a World War II movie, like an action movie. That's not what it was either. There was action in it, not an action movie. Most people are probably going to see it because Christopher Nolan's name was on it, and it's going to be a very character-driven film. It wasn't really that either. I went in just going in saying, please, for the love of God, don't be Saving Private Ryan clone again, because I have seen so many World War II movies. Like, I loved World War II movies, but even I am so fatigued by them. And frankly, very few of them are going to be better than Saving Private Ryan, in my opinion. To me, that's the penultimate ensemble cast World War II film from a technical standpoint, and it was the most effective, and that's why virtually every movie after that does mimic it in a lot of ways. So I'm thinking, had this movie been 2.5 to 3 hours, it probably would have been 3 Saving Private Ryans, one in the air, one in the water, one on the land, and that might have been a better movie for a lot of people, because it's you want to be able to connect with characters. But as I was watching it, I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. I found it extremely hard to watch, regardless of how obviously sanitized it was. I'm used to these movies, at least nowadays, being rated R. You're not going to be hiding the carnage exactly. and there were parts of this movie where it didn't really make a lot of sense that it was so sanitized, but nonetheless, the set pieces and the just horrific events that all these soldiers go through, regardless that you don't know any of them in particular, were enough to me to feel the gravity of the war in that particular battle. I thought it was an interesting approach. I thought it was an interesting macro approach to it, to try to get just the events from 3 different angles, even though none of them were really particularly character driven. It was almost documenting in a way, even though I think some of its biggest problem were with accuracy. There was definitely a lot of creative license, I guess you could say, taken with the whole thing. I mean, I'm not sure why there were so few planes in the sky. I'm not sure why. I mean, the boats and the frigates were one thing, right? Because every time they were on screen, it was a pretty big to-do. So they made each
absolutely.
boat... Yeah, they made each conflict on the boat pretty substantial. But it didn't, there was a hell of a lot more going on that beach. And as accurate as the dogfights felt in terms of, just the fighting of them, it was weird to see almost like modern military style plane like dogfighting in World War II. Like you're not used to seeing like 2 or 3 planes in the sky at a time. It was very odd to me.
I think would have been cool, and I think I said this to Lou, was like if we had just stayed on the beach, and I don't know his name, but Kenneth Branagh's character, the guy that was sitting on the mole there, the pier,
Yep.
Whatever it was, and if he was our protagonist, which he kind of sort of is, but not really, if he was our guy, and we just saw everything through his lens, and you would hear, the Nazi planes coming, you would hear them, the engines slowly coming as they approached, like in that opening scene where you hear the Nazi
they
gunfire.
started to do that, and then they started to break that for a while. I would have preferred every time they went to the beach, it was only from his perspective.
Yeah.
I thought it was clever at the beginning that he was eavesdropping on the generals, but then they just started cutting to the generals.
If we just saw everything through his gaze, and I think it would have just made it so much more intense. And just the fact that he's making an hour and 40-minute movie basically already. Let's just sit on that beach, and
I'm really wondering if there was a lot more and it was recut and they maybe changed their minds on what they wanted to make, because you could probably, if you added another hour onto that, you'd probably have the movie that most people expected.
I totally agree with what you said, Keith. I think there's a million Saving Private Ryan clones, and I agree. That movie to me is the best. I mean, that's one of my favorite movies. Period. Just a war
great.
movie. I think I forget if I mentioned this to one of you guys the other day, but because I know we talked about this briefly, but the first half hour of Private Ryan is unfair to compare that to any other movie, because the Normandy invasion and the first 20 minutes of that movie is incredible, but the Nazis constantly felt like a threat in that movie, constantly. And that sounds really obvious, they're Nazis, of course, they're a threat, but it just felt so weird that in a movie where, you have this terrible enemy at your back, I never once felt they're... the Nazis felt like an annoyance in this movie. They felt like a really bad pothole. They felt like a traffic jam on I-95.
Yeah, well, that's literally what they were.
Yeah,
they
it just
keep
felt
them pinned down on the bay.
Yeah, it just felt like they're just annoying them, and it just felt like, oh fuck, man. Again, maybe I had too much expectations. Maybe it was the Private Ryan in my brain, but
Well, I mean, they do have the scene at the beginning where they're dive bombing on the beach, and no one. I mean, it's like no one. Oh, all right. The bombs just exploded near us. We're all gonna get up now.
I will say this,
drained.
I will say this, there was it's weird. I can't really, for a movie with so much carnage in it, I actually cannot remember I remember little to no blood.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a PG-13. I don't think they can have graphic
right,
carnage.
and I just think that might be the crux of it, of yo, dude, if you're gonna go.
Right, I expect that. It's unnatural to not see it, especially when you're going to see people blown apart, which you don't. It's really just, I think it's just that one part. But, That was weird to me. But
Yeah.
then you know how you see how effective everything else is. I mean,
Yeah, dude. I mean, dude, I can talk about Private Ryan forever. Like, that was actually on AMC the other day, and even though it's on AMC and it's censored, like, yeah, like some of those sequences where people are exploding on the beach in that movie are so horrific, and then maybe I was expecting some of that shit in Dunkirk. I don't know. I
well,
don't
but
know.
it's only a natural react. That's the thing. If somebody is going to be, if you're gonna have a part of the movie where they're gonna be launching bombs directly onto a dozen soldiers plainly in view, and you're not gonna see anyone evaporate and disassemble, it's gonna immediately take you out of it. They very easily
Yeah.
could have shot that differently or just not had it at all, and then it wouldn't be a problem because you saw how effective everything else was. It was almost, so there were some scenes I think that bordered on tasteless, and I think some of it was at fault of the music. I can't speak to the
Yeah.
sound that much because I think the theater I saw it in, the sound mix was complete garbage.
You know what?
Things
I
were
think,
too
dude, I
loud
think
and some were too quiet, and I think it was off.
I think no, I had the same thing. I think a lot of that might be intentional. I think they intentionally made a lot of those planes like it felt like the plane noise in some scenes was so.
Oh, no, I know
was-
that. I mean, that's the thing. There
Yeah.
were times where, yes, the emphasis felt natural, but most of the
Yeah.
time, I could barely hear dialogue.
Yeah, no, dude. Yeah, me
Unless
too.
maybe
What
this is more with
scenes?
the film.
What scenes did you think were tasteless? Because I agree.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't mind the on-screen violence at all. Of course not. I don't. Well, nobody knows me, but Ryan knows me. I'm a big fucking fan of that shit. Especially
Yeah.
if it's used to, effectively to further the point of something like a war film. And it's very impressive when you can do that without shedding blood either. And that's what the scenes, especially on the ships and then the planes and all the threats of drowning. And it's like, just absolutely horrific. Those were really well done. The reason why I say there's some things with tasteless comes in with the score. And the score in this movie seems like it's working overtime and so labored to drive home the points. That
Yeah.
certain scenes like that I thought were already effective on their own. So the music
Yeah.
is a really mixed bag. There's some absolutely beautiful music in here. I thought there was some it was really experimental in places. I especially loved, I think there was one moment when the planes were really flying overhead where they had these really surreal, like just trilling strings and violins playing really high little trills.
Yes.
It was really neat. And then there are times where it does this bullshit trailer like stuttering effect as you're seeing soldiers drowning to death, and it was just so utterly tasteless. It made me sick. Like that was really horrible. I don't know who decided that, but I thought that was
Yeah.
absolutely disgraceful. It was such a horrible mishmash of summer blockbuster movie trailer,
Yeah.
stuttering music with this very serious thing. And it's like, fuck off with that. It's like so schizophrenic.
Yeah. Plus, too, it's weird. Like you talked about summer movie things, and I thought of this walking into the theater just because I'm like OCD with dates and shit. And this came out literally the same weekend as Saving Private Ryan did 19 years earlier. It came out the last Friday.
Shut
in
up,
July.
really?
Yeah. and I wonder if there's like, I wonder if that played into her thinking where it's like we have a movie here that probably will get Oscar love, but we have all these summer movie tropes. Maybe we can latch onto it. So let's put it out in late July and hope
Yeah,
it
but you
makes
see,
some money.
here's the thing, though. If this were, like we were talking about, it would be almost a 3-hour movie with serious character development, then, that's Oscar bait. This is too high.
Yeah.
This is too high concept the way it is. Like,
Yeah.
The one thing I will say that, for better or worse, there are times this was good, times this was bad, but I absolutely noticed a huge overstated theme in the film about what one person can do amongst a million. Like, one soldier in the right place means the world. So if that
Right.
was one, just imagine what every single one of them are doing. You saw that when they rushed that injured soldier to be the last one on the frigate before it left.
Yep.
You saw it when the guy on the deck was out on outside of the frigate to open the door to let everyone else out, so not everyone drowned. The people on the what were the characters from the town that were going to the beach, they got there just in time to rescue the guy from the downed plane. And then you had Tom Hardy and enacting his best imitation of Jesus Christ, airplane fighter, taking out taking out some bombers before they reach the strip without any engines on. That was pretty miraculous. That was the worst.
What did you think? What did you think of the final 2 minutes where it did like
bizarre,
I actually enjoyed the final 2
fucking
minutes?
bizarre. I didn't understand any of it. It was so weird to me.
It was like I liked the music and it felt like, oh man, like I don't know, a lot of that last 2 minutes where you hear the Churchill thing being read and the music kicks up felt like it was good, but at the same time felt so out of place because it's actually some interesting character moments in there, and you're actually getting some character information, like Tom Hardy doing like what you said just now. But the rest of the movie is so not like that it just felt like, oh, we want to do this an hour 47. It's an hour 40. Let's do like 2-3 minutes of awesome montages and awesome music, and it is. But it's like next to the rest of the movie,
what
it
it was
felt
trying
weird.
to say. Like, the last few minutes, I mean, for one, he just willingly gets captured by the Nazis. I don't know what
dude,
person in their right fucking mind does that.
I asked my friend about that because he loved it, and I was like, dude, why didn't he just ditch? Like,
I would have fucking taken my chances in the water. This is not early on in the war, okay? We know the reputation of the fucking Nazis, okay?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a prisoner of war there.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't just ditch or eject or try to land in the water, besides the fact that the film needed him to not do that, because that would not be glorious. You know,
right, I mean, was that's, I think Lou was saying, he was telling me he thinks it might have just been a way to exaggerate his heroic status.
I think that's like
sacrificial status.
I think that's one of those, like, shots, you know what I mean? That's like one of those moments
it seemed like it was there
end
to be
on
there.
a, like, holy fuck, you know?
Yeah.
I did not think that ending on the burning plane was a good last shot for the movie.
Well, it wasn't the last shot, though. The last shot was even weirder. After the speech, it just landed on a shot of the main soldier on the train again.
Yeah,
for like a few seconds,
I thought
and
the
I didn't
plane
get
was
it.
the last shot.
No, the second,
that's what was so weird to me.
yeah.
He finishes the speech, and he doesn't give. Maybe my memory's failing me, but I don't think he gave any emotion or like any hesitance or anything.
Yeah, they're coming back on that
train.
train. Yeah, they're coming back on that train. He's reading the Churchill speech, and they're thinking, oh, we're gonna get greeted as, like, you know, basically we're gonna get spit on like fucking Vietnam vets, and everyone's like giving them wine, and be like, oh, we're just so glad you're home. And yeah, the second to last shot is the burning plane, and then it cuts to him, like, kind of looking up, like, from the paper, and I took that to be like him and that generation realizing, oh fuck, like, the war has just really begun now. Like we're celebrating now, but now it's on. Like, now we got to go do this. And I thought if the movie had a little more of that, maybe you could have had something, because that was the first time in those last 2 minutes where all those guys felt like characters. It felt like, oh, we're getting some character information on, because for 2 hours all you have is close-ups of Tom Hardy's face, and it's just like,
can I just
what
say, like,
the
that was the
fuck?
most confusing part of the whole fucking movie, because I don't know if it's a fundamental problem with the sound design or the theater I was in, but I couldn't hear a goddamn thing anyone was saying.
I think the sound design in the whole movie was a little balanced more towards and a little bit less towards speaking.
I couldn't figure it out. I thought the sound in my theater was just fucked, because there were things, unless they were going for like hyper realism, and us basic bitches won't know the scientific depth from far away of what sound everything makes from some distance, or it's just broken.
Like,
because that's the thing.
It's a movie.
Most people won't tell anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Like, did you ever see The Social Network?
Yes.
yeah.
Like, that one scene in that movie where they're in the club and they're, like, shouting over the music, like, that worked super well. Like, I thought that was such a clever way to shoot that scene and, like, still convey information, and you almost get, like, a joke out of it, right? But that's one scene. Like, imagine if the whole movie was like that. You know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It didn't bother me for the only part it bothered me for was the planes, because I legitimately needed to hear what they were saying, and there were times where I can't tell the difference between them.
Yeah.
You know, and there's
Yeah.
parts where one of them goes ahead, one of them goes down, one of them's losing fuel, and I swear to God, halfway through it, I thought Tom Hardy was dead, and then he came back. He was just miles ahead of him, and I didn't know what happened. I was so confused.
And not to mention,
so weird.
like, oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a
No,
bastard.
no, not
I'm
at
a
all,
bad
dude.
man.
Um,
Well, I guess all I was trying to say is that I liked it a lot more than I expected to. I was surprised at the tone of the movie, that the approach it took. It was a very mixed bag. You know, there was good, there was bad. I couldn't say it was predictable. Well, except for the
the kid
for the
being a
kid.
hero.
Yeah.
I just remembered what it was. That, in my opinion, is a movie that would benefit from watching with the subtitles on.
Oh God! I mean, yeah. I couldn't hear anything in the planes, man.
Yeah.
Subtitles on, and I think there was one more thing, not to hit home the character thing too much and beat a dead horse, but do you guys remember that scene, and it was in some of the trailers, I think, where that dude just gets up from the group and walks right into the channel? He walks right into the ocean.
Yeah, that looked like such a moment in the trailer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just,
like in the movie, it was.
I was
like
gonna say,
nothing.
maybe I saw it like 2-3 weeks ago, so I'm maybe forgetting it. But so maybe some of this was in there. But just imagine if we had spent 20 minutes or a half hour with 2 or 3 scenes with that guy, and right as he gets up, he talks to. We see 2 or 3 scenes, and then it's like, oh, where's Jack at? Oh, he's there, or he just in the middle of a scene gets up and walks into that ocean. That's a great example of a moment that like. Visually has a lot of impact and it's well made, but there's nothing to it besides, oh look, a guy's walking to the ocean, which is fucked up. It's just more like if we had knew who that guy was and who knew his name was, it would have way more weight to it, and we actually would be like, God damn these Nazis and blah 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 and all that shit. But it has no.
If I had to really,
besides.
if I had to really boil down my thoughts on Dunkirk, it's that the movie is a lot more style than substance.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, and I hate to say that, and maybe I just need to see it again. You know, maybe I'm just dense and I didn't get it, but it just.
I'm hesitant to say style over substance. I think the substance there is just not in the areas that you'd expect. It's much more about the scale and the concept.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about
That's
that
fair.
with. Because I really enjoyed Interstellar, but you love Interstellar.
Yeah, I
that is a
sucked that
great
movie's penis.
So, I'm one of those pieces of shit that enjoys, unironically, fucking Space Odyssey 2001. And
A lot of people do.
I know. But
Nolan made
come on,
his
no
cast
one wants
watch
to talk
that
to
movie
that guy.
before they actually filmed.
So you see,
Interstellar.
the thing is, you compare those two movies, right? They are similar in a sense, and they hit similar beats, and
They're
they kind of
both
try to
in
end similar ways.
space.
But you were saying how Interstellar is at heart a character film. It lives and dies by the character progression.
100%.
It is much more about that than the concept. Whereas 2001 is anything but. Hal is the biggest character in 2001. He's a fucking robot. The human race is the concept and the story there, the evolution of the human race. Not exactly the most Hollywood-friendly concept, but that is more like what Dunkirk is, ironically. It's more about the concept and the scale of it all, and just the human experience of the war in terms of the event.
Yeah.
There isn't
and-
really anything personal about it, and yet it's still... I still don't know if I want to see it again, because there's still, it hits me the same way Saving Private Ryan does, in the sense that it just, some of the scenes are just, the third he hasn't even gotten on the damn thing. He's swimming to the third frigate as it's tipping over in front of him, and then someone takes a plane out, and that's not even any good, because the fucking downed enemy plane ignites a giant oil slick on the water, burning everyone. It's like you can't get it was relentless at times. There are times where it felt personal without any fucking characters present. So for those moments, I gotta give it credit.
I think it really comes down to what type of movies you like to watch. You know what I mean? Like, for me personally, I'm more into those character-driven movies. You know, and I think that's a lot of the reason why I like Baby Driver so much. Is because that's a freaking character movie. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, I think Baby Driver is a great example of one that kind of does both. It has great characters, and it's almost like, again, it's that, like, I bet I can go do this sequence set to this beat or whatever, you know? Like, I bet I can make this plane strafe this shit.
Right.
But Baby Driver actually has you, again, A, with a clear protagonist, and B, like, with characters you all know their names and stuff, and you know, like, their backgrounds, and even just, like, again, not to go backwards, but, like, you see John Hamm and his wife in that movie.
Yep.
And you immediately get some sense of who the fuck they are. And again, I know, like, in a military movie, everyone is chiseled down to their core and they have the same uniforms on. But again, not to keep sucking Saving Private Ryan's dick, but it's like, you know those guys within, you know, right after that Normandy invasion, even during it, like, you know who a lot of those main guys are. Like, you know, and you can tell just from visually looking at them, like, who the fuck is who. But I think staying on the beach and staying with Kenneth Branagh and building all that would have been great. Because plus, too, like, look, it's a historical thing. We know they get rescued, even though I'm sure a lot of people watching it have no clue.
Yeah, and that's the
about
thing.
it.
I mean,
So-
it's one thing to honor it, but we still don't need more movies to tell us that war is bad and it is harsh. Like,
yeah,
my
and
God,
also too, it's like,
I get
let's
it.
just-
Jesus Christ, I don't need to see more of the movie was a tough watch. I will give you that. I will
Yeah.
definitely-
And-
I'll give it credit. I'll give it credit for this. It's a cool. They made a retreat look as awesome as possible. You know, like they made a retreat. It's
Can
a
I
cool-
say one thing?
It's a
Ryan,
cool take
I asked Lou
on.
this before, but Ryan, did you? I don't know why, but the general that was on the beach that said, "I'm staying for the French." Did you not totally see he was going to say that? The first time I saw the general, I'm like, he's staying, isn't he? I don't know why. I just immediately.
I definitely got a going down with the ship vibe. No pun intended with that, but I didn't know he was going to say that.
Because I'm
exact
usually
line with
pretty
the
shitty at
French.
making calls like that, and I guess it was just the one time I felt rewarded. Like, that
You
guy's
just-
gonna
Yeah.
stay.
You looked at his face and you could see it.
Yeah.
It was like,
See it in his
this
eyes.
is this is the martyr right here.
Yeah, and I think he was like the clear dude
the
to
old
hang
general.
He
Yeah.
had
And
that Cooper going into the black hole look on his face the whole movie.
with. Yeah, and not to get off on like a super tangent, but just use it as an example. Like, you know, the Star Wars prequels are fucking garbage, and I think there's a lot of basic shit in those movies that are like, well, if you just did this, it could have made it a lot better. Like, you know, Obi-Wan is like should have been like the guy you follow in like that first movie, especially the Phantom Menace, and it just felt like you were in so many different places, nothing mattered, and it felt like if we just hung with Kenneth Branagh on that beach, it would have gave the movie a lot of intimacy, like Baby Driver, where it's like we see everything through that dude's kind of perception, you know, like as he listens to shit and stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's the
It's
thing.
worth seeing. It's worth checking out. Like I would say, go see it if you haven't seen it, because it is a cool movie experience. Just,
Yes. Absolutely.
You know,
I would
just a
never tell
lot of
someone
weird
not
choices.
to see it. And
Yeah.
out of all the people I know, I am definitely in the minority of people who didn't like it. And I think it is a lot of like my borderline fanboy of Christopher Nolan. You know,
Yeah.
I expected it to be one thing. It wasn't that. I was disappointed. Like that's really the root of how I feel about that
I mean,
movie.
that's why I addressed it with expectations, and I even went in it with no expectations, and
Right.
I think it's a pretty mixed bag. I think it's, you know, it's got its good points and its bad points.
To
I
be
think it's
fair, you're
messy.
also like really, like, I don't feel like you say you enjoy like you like a new movie very often. Like when you called me and told
Yeah,
me
this
you
is a
liked
hell of a
Interstellar, I was like, I was so dude. When do you remember what you said to me that day? I should have like saved the text message. I was.
Oh yeah, I was saying like it made me enjoy seeing like movies in theaters. again,
Yes, and
'cause
that
the
was
scale
such a
felt so appropriate for the ticket price because
such
that's
a
worth
huge
seeing
deal.
in IMAX,
Yeah,
legitimately.
that-
Like,
oh god, that movie! I fucking love that movie so much.
for
And
the effects alone, you know. And,
Yeah, right. Even if you-
even on the
you
most
could-
superficial level.
yeah, I was about to say like you could hate the story from every aspect of it and still enjoy those visual effects. It was beautiful. I really love that movie, and I think the love I have for that movie is part of the reason why Dunkirk was a little bit of like meh for me. So
Yeah. I think his next movie might be Bond. I think they're trying to get him to
Yeah,
direct the
I
next
heard it's gonna
Bond.
be Dunkirk too.
Back to the beach.
back to Dunkirk.
Dunkirk
Revisionist
2, Back
history.
to the Beach.
Yeah, back
It's,
you
it,
thought it was over,
Yeah.
but they wanted more.
it turns
Yeah.
out fucking Tom Hardy is actually like he's a flamethrower. So like he just rolls around in the fire of his plane and kills all the Nazis and goes on to kill Hitler
Yeah,
No, I was
well,
gonna say,
with
I was
Captain
gonna say,
America.
he's
he
driving
lets
the
the
plane
Nazis-
down the streets.
Yeah.
He lets the Nazis capture him, and then he pulls out, he whips out his adamantium claws and just fucking decimates fucking all of them.
Ryan, I think you got it. The Nailed It podcast will return immediately. Here's the meme of the week.
So
Yeah,
that's
dude.
actually a pretty fair segue into talking about our last movie, which is none other than Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Dude.
Yeah.
This is what a summer for movies.
I-
I
it-
don't
it's been a
like
good
movies.
one.
I fucking hate movies, and I love these movies. Like, this is great.
Yeah. So let's get this on the table before we get into this, because odds are this will not be the last superhero movie we ever discuss. So when you're dealing with the three of us, I think a pretty fair metric, and correct me if you guys think I'm wrong here. Ryan typically fake news. I feel like Ryan is typically like, yeah, it was good, and like Keith, you're not so big on the superheroes, and me, I read a lot of Marvel comics, so I get butthurt on certain things. I think that's a fair
No, that's
assessment of the
honestly, you're
three
not
of
going to
us,
get a
right?
more impartial panel right now.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, let's talk about Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Please, what a wonderful movie.
Well, I think
Spider-Man:
Tobey Maguire is
Homecoming.
really a really good Spider-Man. I think Tobey
Get the fuck
Maguire
out.
is like really, all right. We're not talking about those Spider-Man.
Well, I think it's fair to talk about those in context with this one, because let's
Yeah.
face
Yes.
it, this is now the third time this franchise has been rebooted in the last decade.
Yeah, that's nuts.
And look, I will even say that I still, as a movie, enjoyed the first Spider-Man movie, but that's still that's still saying a lot, because there were these two others, and I may only have a cursory knowledge of these superheroes in general. I'm not an avid comic reader, but I've certainly grown up with the heroes, and I know what Spider-Man's supposed to look and feel like. And Tobey Maguire never sold it to me,
Nope.
and I don't think anyone, like very few. I'm certainly not alone on that.
No.
Um,
Here's
But
my.
I love Sam Raimi's movies, and I still
Yeah.
think that is a good movie.
Yeah, I think the first one really has its moments. I think the second one was pretty alright. I really like Doc Ock. I mean, my biggest problems with those movies was that like Toby was not a good Peter Parker.
Yeah, I just could
Deal with
never,
it.
I could never buy it. That was always a concession.
Look, here is my ultimate concession on both of those franchises. Tobey Maguire was a decent Peter Parker. I think he was too old, and I think he was a little too nerdy. Andrew Garfield was way too cool to be Peter Parker, and he was a pretty good Spider-Man. But those movies, like everything was wrong with those fucking
Oh
movies.
God!
But and then like you really.
I only saw. I didn't see the second one.
Oh,
I
the
heard
second
that
one
was
is
a
so fucking bad.
I know. I heard that's like a Titanic, but
I-
I didn't like the first one.
I
either.
think, and this is not hyperbole, I think Tommy Wiseau's The Room is better than Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Hey man, at least you can get some enjoyment out
Yeah.
of the lack of coherency.
Amazing
Wow.
Spider-Man 2 just made me very angry.
I mean,
Just very angry.
I think the only one that was where, and I shouldn't say, I still haven't seen it, but I remember I had a similar feeling when I saw. This is a little bit of a tangent. Remember the first Hulk movie, the Ang Lee one?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's not a good movie, but whatever. It was all right. There was some fun action scenes. I thought there was some cool things about it. And then they were gonna do it again, right? They had the next one, the Incredible Hulk, come out, and I think I fell asleep in the theater. It was just so painfully bad. It's like they have this way about them that, okay, we're going to reinvent the series and we're going to make it much better this time. It's going to be closer to the comics. It's going to be more accurate. And then it ends up being worse than I think the previous iteration was. That's why I mentioned I kind of liked the first Spider-Man as a movie, and then they remake it and they couldn't even make a good movie.
Yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
this new Spider-Man is such, I mean, one of the many reasons why it's such a huge surprise.
So I think one of the big things to consider with this one is that right now Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man, and though they're
God
starting,
help us.
yeah, they're starting to play nice with Marvel. You know, with Civil War, he was in that, and they worked together, and Marvel had some shit to do with this one as well. But on the whole, like, the reason the Amazing Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield even exist, apparently, is because they needed to maintain that copyright. And in order to maintain that copyright, I think they have to do something with the property every 5 years.
Yep.
So that's why
Still doesn't make it's still not an excuse.
No, not at all. But
That's the thing.
that's why it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at the facts here, right? The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, with Andrew Garfield, came out in the same summer that the original Avengers came out. And let's talk about the original Avengers for a split second, right? What's the ultimate end game of that movie? Loki is going to the top of the Avengers Tower to shoot a beacon into space that's going to rain down destruction upon the city, right? It's going to bring these aliens down, right? Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, right? What's the end game there? The Lizard's going to climb to the top of this really big tower called Oscorp in that one, and he's going to shoot a beacon into space that's going to rain down destruction on all of Manhattan. And in the Avengers, the effect is blue, and in Amazing Spider-Man is green. But it's the same fucking thing, and that all the more. It kind of like just annoyed me because instead of this contractual who holds the rights bullshit, like just put Spider-Man in the fucking Avengers, dude. Like it would have. Everybody loves Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like who's like, oh, Spider-Man's stupid.
The thing is, that's the thing. The reason I can't even accept that as an excuse on their part, it's like, oh man, we have to do something. Well, you've got how many fucking universes and how many generations of comics chock full of tiny independent stories that you could just make a movie out of? Like, it's just so ridiculous to me that they just can't drum it up. Like,
but Sony Pictures is like a fucking dumpster fire right now.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably,
like
they've always been. They have their hits occasionally, but I mean, come on. I don't. I mean, you got Spider-Man and what was the Emoji Movie?
Ghostbusters 2016.
I mean, fuck
Great
off,
movie. Great movie.
Like, isn't that amazing too? You can have something that is so completely 100% wrong, and then you have Spider-Man. It's like this. You're so schizophrenic, Sony. I think you just need a therapist.
Yeah, or like stick to video games.
Yeah,
Like real talk, Like you made The Last of Us, and you also made the Emoji Movie.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. These are all different companies, technically.
Yeah. But
And
they're all
what's
the
wild?
same.
What's wild too is I'm pretty sure Sony owns the rights or did own the rights to Breaking Bad.
Yes,
That's right.
That is correct.
Lou will suck its dick a million times, and I will too. It's one of the best shows ever. But it's crazy
It's
the
a
amalgamation
masterpiece.
of shit they seem to run well and also run terribly.
And I think Sony's involvement with Breaking Bad is part of the reason it was so successful, though, because you hear this shit about The Walking Dead and how AMC's been treating the showrunner and the actors and that
Yeah.
because AMC just owns that show outright. Whereas
Yep.
in Breaking Bad, if they were trying to pull some shit, there's a third party in there that says, what are you doing there? So in that respect, Sony did some good. But enough history. Let's talk about
Spider-Man.
Let's talk about Homecoming. So, Homecoming kind of really takes off of the wind from the Civil War movie, which, in my opinion, Spider-Man stole the show in that movie. Civil War had some problems. There was some storyline things that were a little odd. But that airport scene where they introduced Spider-Man,
I love that scene. Yeah.
Unbelievable, so good. I think it's to this day still like the best action sequence they've ever done.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
You know, like, because I mean, you know, let's face it. Sometimes those, as the battles get bigger, they kind of have like that Michael Bay Transformers effect, where it's just like CG mashing into CG, and it's like, oh, what the fuck's happening?
Yep.
You know?
It's something.
Yeah.
What do you care? It's a movie. Something's happening.
One of them
Just
is
trust
winning.
it.
I don't know which, but one of them is winning.
Just eat your fucking popcorn. God.
So here's the thing. Spider-Man is hands down my favorite superhero ever, and I think Tom Holland really nailed the character unlike anyone before, and I think he's absolutely perfect. He's absolutely perfect for this young Spider-Man, and I love the pacing of the movie. The action is great. You know, the humor is really great, and I don't think they could have grabbed a better person to play Spider-Man.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, you know, just him chosen as the actor too is exemplary of just how this is a perfect storm of everything coming together. It was almost fate, you know. It's like a movie like that can only really come along once in a while, or like a show like a Twilight Zone or a fucking, you know, Breaking Bad or Seinfeld for sitcoms. Like, there's only like, this can only happen once every 10 years or something.
Yeah.
This is like the ultimate fan film without it being fan service. You know what I mean? It's like what everyone would have wanted. This is what they did.
Yeah.
And what's kind of great is, you know, just as filmmakers, like I think they really analyzed the last couple of Spider-Man movies and came to some realizations, you know, like they clearly realized, like, okay, we don't need to do this. You know, like, we
Yes.
don't need Uncle Ben.
I was just about to say, yeah, they did. Yes, they did not do the typical
Right.
nonsense.
There's none of that cliche shot of him, you know, swinging through New York City.
Yep.
In fact, I think there's like the opposite of that with that scene where he's like in the parking lot and he's just running like all out of breath. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Oh, yeah. I forget. No, you know, that was funny, but now that I think about it in that context, that's even funnier. That totally escapes me.
Yeah.
because
That's
like,
really funny.
because that's always like the douchebag kid conversation you'd have. It's like, well, what if Spider-Man didn't have any buildings to swing
Yep.
on? You know, like.
Yep.
Well,
like-
there you go. He's taking the bus.
It's great, yeah, and like the humor, it's like it's self-aware enough that they can make jokes like that, you know, like that whole sequence when Ned was like, oh, do you lay eggs? Do you know, can you call an army of spiders? Like, it was like self-aware enough to have humorous.
That was
moments
almost like an
that.
Edgar Wright
It
moment.
was great, yeah, but then
You
like,
ever fire one gun? Shouldn't jump through
yeah, but then
You ever
but
fire
then,
two guns jumping through the air?
But then, like, at the same time, it had like the seriousness to make Michael Keaton such a great fucking villain.
Yeah, let's not even talk about too much about that, because
Yeah,
what a great twist, legitimately.
Yes. It
What a
was. It
great-
was.
You won't see it coming.
Yeah,
You won't.
absolutely.
I guarantee you won't.
Yeah.
They do a really cool job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, without giving too
just-
much
just-
away, I think like the Marvel's gotten really good. I think at like the hour 45-minute mark of their movies, if it's a 2-hour 10-minute movie, realizing the audience needs like an extra jolt. So they do these really good twists, which we won't spoil, but they do these really good twists, and that's a great example of one where it's like they've gotten so good at making these movies where they realize, like, hour 40, hour 50 of a 2-hour 10-minute movie, it's like we gotta keep people engaged, and it can't just be more visual effects because they're just gonna be numb to that. So they gotta give us like a twist
Yeah.
or whatever.
And they've
No, it's a
gotten
consistently good story.
Yeah,
they've gotten so much better at crafting villains too.
they have.
You know, like the Vulture in this movie is there's so much character development on him. There's so much time you spend with him. You understand his motives, and I think what really makes him so good is like he's kind of small time. You know, like in the other
Yeah.
movies, like Age of Ultron, it's like, I'm gonna destroy the world by flying this city up into space and dropping
Yeah.
it on the Earth. You know, and this guy's like, hey, I want to steal some shit and sell it.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, it is a comic book universe for the most. You know, I understand it's got to be grand, but
But it doesn't always. I mean,
it
and that's,
doesn't.
Like,
The thing is,
Spider-Man is not a grand superhero for the most part.
no, and that honestly, that's one thing that I've kind of had. Yeah, I've picked up on that more and more over the years because I never really thought about it in that context, but it's true. He is, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Yes, that's true. But and then there's so many of the other movies are such grand scales. But I still think that this movie has got to be one of the best villains they've ever developed. I loved it, and I loved Michael Keaton as him. It was a little shaky at first. But especially when that thing happens, he really fucking is great. He's back to his old,
so good,
his old self, man.
And like
really
pairing that up with like he recently did Birdman.
Yeah.
I think that was 2014, 2015.
Yeah, 2014.
And like, cause he was absolutely phenomenal in that.
Yeah.
And when I first heard he was the Vulture, I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
That's
I was gonna
crazy.
say, what were the biggest reasons you wanted to see the movie? Because I couldn't blame anyone if they wanted to completely write it off.
I had so much hope for it because of Tom Holland.
Mm-hmm.
But then hearing that Michael Keaton was the villain, that was kind of another like, ooh, I want to see that.
Yeah, it made me think like when you heard that, like, oh, they actually are thinking about like what the fuck they're doing, and also too, like, I love how, again, without spoiling too much, the movie is like it opens. Has an origin story for the Vulture, not for Spider-Man, which I think is amazing. Like, they didn't waste time on him getting bit by a spider, or all this nonsense, which, not nonsense, but it's just stuff we know. Like, someone said this about not to get off on another movie, but someone said this about the last, the Batman vs. Superman movie, where it's like, we don't need to see two parents get shot in an alley. Like, we know where Batman started,
Yeah, I think at this point, point, we know.
Like, we know.
Yeah, they're running out of Uncle Ben's.
Yeah, like, we didn't see Uncle Ben. Yeah, we didn't see Uncle Ben. We didn't see him get bit by a spider. Because I remember when David Fincher was, like, asked to direct, I think maybe the Andrew Garfield ones. I remember he said, like, I just can't shoot someone getting bit by a spider. I think it's weird. I forget what the actual quote was. And it's just like, dude, there's nothing written anywhere that you have to show that. Like, like...
what was really horrible in that movie? Like, the spider was, like, blue and red, like his suit.
I don't remember that.
Like,
wasn't that in the first? You mean
it might have been.
Oh yeah,
dude.
It
was like a little dumb fucking
the
blue.
Sam Raimi one, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
And it's like, I love how they bypass all that stuff and they kind of just treat it as like an origin story for a villain that involves Spider-Man.
And it's all the better for the villain. And you know what? They even, because like some reviews and like people I've listened to have kind of referenced like the idea that like, not having that origin story almost harms his motivations a little bit. But, like, they even do, like, very briefly reference those events, Because, like, everybody knows the origin story. But, like, he's talking to Ned in that room, and he just goes, after everything Aunt May's been through, I can't let her know that people are trying to kill me. And that's all you fucking need.
Yeah.
It's two sentences.
Even if somebody went in there not knowing a goddamn thing about Spider-Man, that was such a tight, self-contained story. There's no way in hell that would I can't imagine that bugging any moviegoer.
It was, I mean, because you have those purists, right? I mean, like, for me, I really just enjoyed it. I thought they really captured the spirit of Spider-Man. Because if you look at the comics, like, the Vulture is not Michael Keaton. You know what I mean? Like, the Vulture is this weird, bald, old dude in a green suit, like spandex suit, with like weird ass wings, like he's not this cyber tech, type of dude, like, and they really rolled in a lot more of Tony Stark, and I think it all just worked really well. Tony Stark kind of almost played that like mentor father figure.
Well, that's exactly
that he needed, and I think, I don't know, I think it's really good when they try and start to depart and just do their own thing. Like they say, hey, we've read the comics, we understand who this guy is, we understand what the world is like, we understand what the villains are like, and we're just going to do our own thing with it, And that's perfect. Like, you look at the original, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and you have so many moments in that movie where it's like just a hodgepodge of like a million things. Like, that sequence really comes to mind when they're with the cable cars, remember? And Green Goblin makes Spider-Man choose between saving Mary Jane or like that cable car.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like that just felt so much like the death of Gwen Stacy moment, where in the comics, Green Goblin throws her off the cable car things by the bridge, and Peter Parker shoots the web, and it grabs her and it breaks her neck, and she dies, and it's a whole character building arc for Peter Parker, But hey, I guess movie Spider-Man's better than comic Spider-Man, and he can do anything. So, like things like that. It's just. I think this movie just did such a good job of kind of letting Spider-Man fail, and
and also fun.
And those kinds of mistakes are the things that really make him into the hero that he becomes.
Makes him a character.
Yeah, I really dig the fact that he was kind of like making mistakes pretty much the entire movie.
Well, that's the whole thing. He was in over his head the whole movie.
Yeah, and it's perfect. And that's a perfect way to portray. I mean, he says it himself in the movie. He's like, when Ned's like, "You are a kid," and he's like, "Oh, a kid who could stop a bus with his bare hands," And it's like, how do you take someone with all these crazy powers and still make them relatable? And that's just it. Fish out of water, in over your head. And you're. Those are two like sayings that have are like the exact opposite, right? Fish out of water, in over your head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just overall, I think they really. I can't stress it enough. I think it's one of the best movies they've done. I think it's perfect for the origin story. I think it's a great establishment of who he is. And Spider-Man fans rejoice like they fucking got him.
Yeah.
Got him.
And I think too, like the other two things I think are awesome about it is like the world building as it relates to other Marvel movies. Like I love how they like talk about the first Avengers. They infer a lot of shit from that. I think is really cool. And also just like the pure joy of like a Spider-Man movie. Like I remember, I think it was 5-6 years ago, that Spider-Man play was on Broadway, and I saw that with my family, and it's a fun time. It's nothing great, but it's a fun time. And I remember we're in the balcony, and they had one of the guys playing Spider-Man like shoots up on this wire like it's his webbing, and he lands on the balcony, and there was this kid in front of me in the front row, and the kid, you could tell, was like just overjoyed by the fact that Spider-Man was basically in his lap, and like I remember Spider-Man fist pumped him, and he just took off back into the theater, like down to and that was like. That was that movie in like a nutshell. Like this movie is that it was just pure kid joy. It was like joy. Like when I saw it in the theater, there was like so many kids in there. And usually when you see those movies, it's it's a good mix, but it just felt like it was almost like I mean this in a really good way, like a fun old Disney movie that was just pure kid joy. And it was just like
and there was nothing patronizing about it. It was good for everyone. I think it really, I guess if Hollywood could unlock this secret, they would do it a billion times over and over again. But I do think that's a movie that appeals to just about everybody without being patronizing. I mean, it really. I haven't found anyone that hasn't liked the movie yet. Everyone that's seen it that I've spoken to has loved it.
I think even people who wanted to go and not liking it come out, they're like, God damn, that was fun. Like,
Look, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I went and okay, you know what? This might be shit. Okay, let's not go in too crazy. Because the third thing, after the other two things you mentioned, Michael Keaton and the lead actor, when I saw those Captain America, public service announcements, or no, they were the school, whatever they were.
Yeah, on
little
the
TV
tension
interstitials. When I saw that, I was like, okay, that's terrific. I have to see more.
And that's another great example of like awesome world building and connecting it to the rest of the cinematic universe Marvel's doing, but at the same time being hilarious, being just joyful.
Everything that was there was in service.
Yeah.
To the world for good. Even fucking even Diversity High couldn't ruin the fucking movie. It's fucking they just can't help it. They got to throw that in there at some point. They got to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
But even like I said, just coming from like reading
but it didn't
comics
ruin it.
and it didn't matter. Like The only time that I feel like that kind of thing matters is like Spider-Man has looked a certain way since his first creation. You know what I mean? Like he's what, fucking 80 years old, 100 years old. When was Spider-Man first released? I don't know. Whatever.
Don't know.
A long time ago. Captain America celebrated his 75th birthday last year, so he's got to be around there. But just existing that way for so long, and then to just like say, now he looks like this, and that's part of the reason why Marvel Comics, not Marvel, studios, but Marvel Comics are in such a weird situation right now, because they really did change a lot of their core characters into something else entirely, and people who've been reading these comics for years are now like, oh, well, you were reading this, now you're reading this.
Oh, God, yeah, well, that would you talk forever about. That. I'm even just talking about Sony movies.
Yeah.
But,
But I thought it was fine. I thought it, and I mean the thing too is like he's grown up in Queens. You know what I mean? Like the Queens is such a melting pot. I mean I live
I guess
15 minutes from Queens. Queens is so like you could go, drive 5 minutes in one direction and basically there's every billboard's in Chinese. Like.
Yeah, I get it. It's just always distracting to me because whenever there's a shot that just looks so out of place that it almost looks like there was an executive standing there saying, all right, check this box, you got that one there, you got this one there, you got the Chinese there, you got the black there, you got the Eurasian there, you got that.
Yeah.
But perfect, and it's so distracting.
Yeah, it looks like a college recruiting brochure.
It looks like it's so funny. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. It looks like a promotional shoot.
Every type of person smiling while sitting casually at a lunch table,
wondering when they're ever going to pay their student loans back after they've hung themselves.
I'm dead inside.
Not another Starbucks shift, please, God. Whatever. But yeah, but even that,
I will
whatever.
say the thing
that wasn't the end of the world. It didn't overpower the movie. Thank God.
I will say the thing that I thought like put it over the top from like an 8 or a 9 to like this is probably a 10 movie is I thought like Jon Favreau, like his role in that I thought was awesome. Just how he was like almost not the glue, but like him like being almost like when Tony Stark couldn't be there, he was like Tony Stark's like envoy almost. Like he was like a representation of him, like, hey, do this, so like what are you up to? And just some of the stuff with him I thought really helped fit a lot of those scenes together, even though like
that was also really cool, just comedic element too.
And great fun.
The whole Avengers Tower move thing, I thought was really funny. Just seeing them doing something so mundane as moving their headquarters.
And it funny. Also works so well with the universe because like they established that in Civil War that there's a new Avengers headquarters.
And more world building where you're like,
fits,
damn, these guys have like a real plan. Like they're not just throwing shit at a wall. Like these guys have a real plan. Although it is hilarious though now that I think about it, it did the climax of the film still did involve the top of a tower in some way. Which is hilarious in its own way, even though this is much better. When you said that, I was like, God damn, you're right. The other thing I thought, they avoided a lot of simple tropes. Like they didn't do the waste time on the origin thing. And the other thing a lot of these movies do, even Marvel movies, they do this for a while, is the villain intentionally gets captured and is behind glass, like you saw that, and not just Marvel movies, but in so many movies, like Civil War did it.
Yeah, every X-Men movie.
X-Men, Dark Knight, even like the second Star Trek did it, and it's like they avoided all those tropes where it was like, oh, I actually did mean to do this. It's like they avoided a lot of that
like, how
stuff.
many times is Magneto gonna be in like a plastic box? Like, when are they gonna learn just kill him?
Yeah.
Oh, but see, that's the funniest comic book trope of them all in general. And that's where some of them get it. I mean, you say the same thing about a James Bond movie. Like they have to like dip him in a shark tank.
Yep.
And paint him in honey and let bees consume him for 5 days. No, they can't just shoot him in the fucking head. Yeah. That'd be too easy. Then you wouldn't have a movie. Come on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For James Bond movies, I'll give it a pass. I like those.
I really love that they managed to put Donald Glover in the movie too. Because fun fact, in the Disney animated show, he plays the voice of Miles Morales, who is another iteration of Spider-Man. So it's like a nice little hey, what's up?
And it seems like Marvel is really good at like they don't rest on their laurels and like testing themselves, because that reminds me of like I don't know what kind of type of movie it'll be. I'm sure it'll be awesome, but like they clearly are trying to test themselves with stuff like Black Panther, where it seems like they're going and like they're turning into that swerve of like, let's not do this, let's do this, you know, like. And yeah, just I think what makes Spider-Man great is the stuff that's not in it. Like again, no origin story. They didn't take the easy task of like, let's do Green Goblin, you know, like they gave you a villain that, like you were saying, that was kind of whatever, and they made it into something you like. You almost at times kind of root for the guy, like, you know, like you get like his plight sometimes, and he's, you know, bad, but like, you know, you spend time with him and shit. And I've heard for the second one they apparently wanted to use a villain that's much lesser known.
Well,
I don't know how true that
apparently I forget his name, but the guy at the end who's in Better Call Saul, the guy who plays Nacho, what's his name?
Oh yeah, yup.
I forget his name.
Oh,
you know
Michael
who I'm
Mando.
talking about. Yeah, he is the Scorpion. So maybe that's the villain. Who knows? But now they're doing like a solo Venom movie, so
They are.
which is weird because that's not going to be tied in. And Spider-Man is definitely going to be in Infinity Wars, so
Yup.
that might be the next time you see him.
Yeah, what is their
So,
what is
yeah.
their
A
next
solo
slot? So
Black
they have
Widow
like
movie.
Thor 3 in November, Black Panther in February, and then Infinity War in May, right? So they're like every 3 months.
I think that's the case.
From now, like every 3 months, they're gonna have
Yeah.
a Juggernaut coming, which is pretty fucking rad. If I had to pick something to knack at this movie, and this is super minor, is maybe just because it was in my brain that Infinity War is coming soon, I thought there was going to be some badass post-trailer Thanos shit, and we just got a funny Captain America thing, which is still hilarious.
Yeah.
I assume, like, the crazy cliffhanger after credit stuff will be more for, like, Thor and all that stuff. I just love, personally, I just love that shit, but I guess in hindsight, look, dude, it's a fun Spider-Man movie. They're not going to give you, you know, Thanos whipping out his fucking Thanos dick after the credits or something.
Well, one would
Yeah.
hope.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a solid thumbs up from all of us on
Solid
Spider-Man.
Thanos dick.
Yeah, yeah. I give Spider-Man: Homecoming 2 purple Thanos dicks
Yeah.
up.
I'll give it one. I'll give it one
Way
fully
up.
erect Thanos stick, and a second on its way to being erect Thanos stick.
Yeah, it's not quite there, but you know, a little more encouragement.
Yeah,
Do you guys think like there's like a woman's sex toy that's shaped like Thanos' dick,
sure.
Yes,
or like the Infinity Gauntlet?
bro, it's the internet. Come on,
That's
Okay,
got to be. a
I'll look it
meme.
it's
up.
got to be. If it's not in circulation, someone's made
Yeah.
one somewhere.
Yeah, Rule 34, right?
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, I think that's a good stopping point for us now. So if you made it this far, do
The
something.
hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, do something in the comment section. Namely, leave a comment and smash that thumbs up button and that subscribe button. And if you've already done both of those things, you're a good person.
Thanos will not come
And
for you
only
in
if.
the night with his dick.
Yeah, with his Thanos dick.
All right, I'm going home. You're all a bunch of phony frauds. I hate you. Bye.